At the start, we get to know a guy called Phil Hammersley, a congressman who is relaxing at a lake with his pet dog. Another politician, Thomas Reynolds, comes to have a chat with him. They have a serious discussion. It appears that the US Congress is about to vote on a bill that would allow the government to keep a close eye on US citizens. Congressman Hammersley is against this bill because it would invade his people's privacy. Reynolds tries to convince him, arguing that the bill is necessary for the country's security, but Hammersley is concerned about his people's rights and leaves with his dog. Before he can reach his car, an NSA agent who accompanied Reynolds murders Hammersley. They leave a bottle of heart medication near him to make it seem like he died of natural causes. Fortunately, a camera set up by Daniel Zavitz, a wildlife researcher, captures the murder. When Zavitz watches the murder on his camera, he realizes that the news about the congressman's heart attack is false. He quickly informs a journalist friend about this. In another scene, when Zavitz was retrieving the videotape from the camera near the murder scene, one of Reynolds' agents spots him, so some NSA agents go to Zavitz's house. Zavitz copies the video onto a computer disk and hides the disk in a video game console. While the NSA agents are trying to break in, Zavitz escapes using the fire escape ladder. While Zavitz is fleeing, he is tracked by satellite and pursued by NSA agents. At the same time, we meet Robert Clayton Dean, a labor lawyer. One of the people he represents in a labor union has been harmed by the mafia boss, Paulie Pintero. Dean assures the man that he'll handle Pintero. Dean then visits a restaurant where he meets a girl named Rachel Banks, who is also his former girlfriend. She hands him a videotape in exchange for money. Dean then goes to the Pintero social club to meet the mafia boss, who had injured his client from the labor union. Dean shows Pintero the videotape that Rachel handed him. In the video, we see that Pintero is meeting with some union officials, which is against his parole rules. After some tough negotiations, Dean and Pintero reach an agreement. Pintero agrees to offer better contracts to Dean's clients, and Dean agrees to destroy all copies of the videotape. But the fact that someone was filming his private life makes Paulie Pintero very angry. He threatens to kill Dean if he does not reveal who gave him the videotape. Pintero gives him a week to disclose his source, or he promises to kill him. As Dean is exiting the club, one of Pintero's men jokingly tells Dean to smile for the FBI, who are observing the club from a building across the street. In the next scene, Dean is in a lingerie store, buying some gifts for his wife. Here, Zavitz, who we saw being chased by the NSA agents, bumps into Dean. They are old college friends. Dean gives Zavitz his business card, and without Dean noticing, Zavitz secretly slips the disc with the murder video into Dean's shopping bag and quickly runs away. Still being pursued, Zavitz grabs a bike and rides down a busy street where he is struck by a truck and dies instantly. When the NSA agents find Dean's business card on Zavitz's body, but no videotape, they visit Dean's home, pretending to be the local police officers. Unaware that Zavitz had put the videotape in his bag, Dean denies having any sensitive materials and refuses to let them search his bags without a warrant. When the agents depart, Dean tries to search for these materials, but he doesn't know that his son had already removed the device from his shopping bags. Although the NSA guys had left Dean's house quietly, it wasn't for long. They break into his house the very next day, search the entire house, and plant video and audio bugs all over his house, messing everything up. The NSA also spreads a false rumor in the media that Dean was having an affair with Rachel Banks, the girl he met in the restaurant and who gave him the video evidence against the mafia boss, Pintero. This lands Dean in big trouble at his law firm and at home. He is fired from his job and also evicted from his house by his wife. When he tries to check in at a hotel, he finds that all his credit cards have been cancelled. While he is standing there, someone just walks away with his briefcase. Dean thinks that all of this is somehow related to the mafia tape that Rachel gave him, so he meets Rachel in a public place and asks her to arrange a meeting between him and Brill, the real source of the mafia tape, who used to supply Dean with such videotapes from time to time through Rachel. Unfortunately, Dean had never met Brill in person and had no idea what Brill looked like. Since Reynolds' men were listening to the entire conversation between Dean and Rachel, they sent a fake Brill to meet Dean and find out where the murder footage was. The fake Brill convinces Dean that he is the real Brill and is just trying to help him. Soon, he is asking Dean about the murder footage that Zavitz had put into Dean's shopping bag in an earlier scene. While all this is happening, they start getting chased by the real Brill, who eventually meets Dean and takes him into an elevator in a hotel. There, he makes Dean stay quiet at gunpoint and removes many of the bags that the NSA agents had planted in his shoes and clothes. He then takes Dean to the rooftop and tells him that his real name is Edward Lyle and that he is a retired NSA agent himself. When Dean asks if the mafia is after him, Brill tells him that this is much bigger than that. He tells him that the NSA is after him since the bugs on him were military grade. When a helicopter locates them on a rooftop, Brill deduces that Dean must still have some tracking devices on him and instructs him to remove all his clothes. Before departing, Brill advises Dean to keep his distance from from both him and Rachel. Once Brill is gone, Dean begins to flee from the NSA. As he still has some trackers on his clothes, the agents continue to pursue him. Now that Dean comprehends how he's being pursued, he discards his clothes, much to the amusement of an elderly couple observing the scene. Dean manages to escape by climbing on balconies, pilfering a robe, and starting a fire to trigger a fire alarm in the building. Amidst the ensuing chaos, Dean ends up in an ambulance, receiving treatment for smoke inhalation. There, he swipes a police officer's gun, escapes from the ambulance, and dashes into a tunnel. Even within the tunnel, he's not safe from the NSA, as he's being monitored on CCTV. Eventually, he manages to escape by giving his robe to a tunnel worker, leaving the NSA agents frustrated. After this, Dean returns home, where he reassures his wife that he wasn't having an affair with Rachel. He also discovers that his son possesses the device that Zavitz had slipped into his shopping bag at the store. So, he rendezvous with his son in the backseat of his car and finally secures the much-needed device. After this, Dean visits Rachel and stealthily enters her house, only to discover that she had been murdered, and all of his clothes that he had discarded at the hotel were planted there to frame him for murder. He also spots a photo of the real Brill with Rachel when she was a child, leading him to realize that Brill was a family friend of Rachel's. So, Dean reaches out to Brill again, and they convene to discuss the entire situation. Brill informs Dean that the NSA assassinated Rachel to frame Dean and discredit him, so that even if he goes public, no one would believe a murder suspect. After this, Brill heads to the store to grab some food, instructing Dean to stay put. And what typically happens in all movies in such scenarios? Of course, Dean disobeys and uses a public phone. This blunder puts the NSA back on their trail. When the NSA arrives at the store, they obtain the CCTV footage from there, and upon analyzing it, they realize that Brill is a former NSA agent. Brill, in the meantime, has escorted Dean to his secure office where he's been operating for the past 15 years. Once there, they view the murder footage of the congressman, and now they grasp what's happening. But as every gripping thriller movie requires a twist, we are presented with one when the NSA locates them at this hideout thanks to the public phone call we mentioned earlier. The building is assaulted by the NSA. Although Dean and Brill manage to escape, the disc containing the evidence of the congressman's murder is destroyed in a fire. Now, we witness the concluding scenes of this movie, where Dean and Brill retaliate and attempt to expose the corrupt NSA agents. Firstly, they focus on a supporter of the surveillance bill, Congressman Sam Albert. They collect some of the tracking devices that were originally on Dean's clothes and shoes and plant them in the hotel room of Congressman Sam Albert, where he is caught having an affair with his assistant. Brill orchestrates this entire setup so that the congressman discovers that he's being spied on, and the trackers are traced back to the corrupt NSA faction. Then, Brill infiltrates the private property of Reynolds, pretending to be an electrician, and plants a few trackers there as well, ensuring that Reynolds finds them. All of this is to intimidate Reynolds, to make the hunter feel like the prey. If this wasn't enough, Reynolds discovers that an unexplained $140,000 has been deposited in his bank account, and he has no clue where it originated from. Reynolds realizes that all of this was accumulating as evidence against him, indicating that he was corrupt. If this wasn't enough, he receives flowers from a woman, insinuating that perhaps he was also having an affair, which further infuriates his wife. So, in this manner, Brill and Dean manage to capture Reynolds' attention, and they arrange a meeting with him. The objective was to extract a confession from Reynolds and to record it. So, Brill and Dean attend the meeting fully wired up, but Reynolds doesn't incriminate himself so easily, and in the meantime, Brill and Dean get apprehended. Now, Reynolds would have killed them to eliminate any witnesses, but Dean had a clever idea and claimed that the murder tape was in the possession of Paulie Pintero, the mafia boss, who had asked Dean to bring in the source of his tape within a week. So, he escorts them all to the Italian restaurant, which he knew was under FBI surveillance. Dean convinces Pintero that Reynolds was the source of the videotape that Pintero was concerned about. On the other hand, he convinces Reynolds that they were all discussing the tape that contained the recording of the Hammersley murder. Meanwhile, Brill excuses himself to go and vomit outside the van, thus alerting the FBI that something suspicious was transpiring at the Pintero social club. Inside the restaurant, the situation rapidly spirals out of control, and it becomes a standoff between the agents and the Pintero mafia. Soon, it escalates into a shootout in which almost everyone perishes. Fortunately, Dean and Brill survive this ordeal as well. The FBI, keeping tabs on the club, panics and swiftly intervenes. Finally, the sinister scheme behind the surveillance bill is unveiled, and the surviving conspirators are apprehended by the FBI. In the final scenes, the NSA's involvement in all of this is covered up by the FBI. The late Pintero is implicated in the murder of Rachel Banks, and Dean is exonerated of all his charges. He returns home to his wife and family. Brill, on the other hand, has fled to a tropical region and typically sends his friendly greetings to Dean, being a bug installed in his this television set. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.